Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to ICB TV number 192 and this MTD special. And I have some guests with me today who are going to help me out with this because it's good to get a viewpoint from your members. And I said I would do one of these. So thank you very much to two members, Sylvia and Lara, who have come on here with two very different types of businesses. And we're going to talk through with them how what's happening is going to affect their businesses and how they're working about getting around it. And I have Rosalia Munro, who, if you came on the Inspire tour, you will have met. She is a tour de force, I think is the word I should say. She's amazing and very knowledgeable, and she's actually going to talk to you about something that ICB are doing that we need your help with, and you will be seeing Ross more and more, I think, on ICB TV over the next couple of months, because she's helping out and taking on a lot more responsibilities, and we'll be doing a lot of our communications. So welcome everyone. We've got quite a lot of people already logged in, so I think we'll start, because I know a lot of people that have booked in are going to sort of watch this on catch up, so they won't get the live version, but they will be. I know it's summer holidays, and I've had at least one email from someone saying, I'd love to come, but I'm ferrying kids around in a holiday. I remember that so well, in and out, busy time, and yeah, I'm so glad I'm out of that. Right, let me just, before I do, let me bring up the chat line so I can see the questions as they come up. Now, if you've got questions coming up, or you want to ask us anything, or you want the panel to discuss anything, please put your questions up in the chat line rather than the Q&A, so I don't have two screens to look at the same time. So we've got everybody piling in, all the normal suspects coming in. Welcome to you all. That's absolutely amazing. So for those of you who didn't manage to get round onto the Inspire tour, or I think I did something slightly different on the digital Inspire tour. So if you weren't at the Inspire tour live, you may or may not have picked this up. Now, going back from day one when MTD started, which actually, would you believe, was 2015 was my first MTD for ITSA meeting. It seems a lifetime ago, and it was. And then, of course, as you know, MTD for ITSA went a bit on the back burner when VAT came out, and it was all into MTD for VAT. And in fact, this week, an announcement has come out about MTD for VAT, which will affect you all. Well, it could affect you all. As you know, originally, VAT was done through the Government Gateway portal. You logged onto the Government Gateway portal, you put your 9 figures out and you submitted it, and all was hunky-dory. And then we moved into the software doing it for you, and then that moved on to MTD software doing it for you. But the portal was still there, even though from the 1st of April, everything has to now be done online for all VAT registered businesses. And from the 1st of November, that VAT old portal is closing down unless you are exempt from online filing. If you're exempt, then it's still there and you will have been contacted. But if not, that portal closes down. Now, of course, as good ICB bookkeepers, you have all of your clients logged into the MTD system. Everybody's working perfectly. You're doing exactly what they're supposed to be, and you know what you're doing. However, I think what's going to happen is that we could very well get lots of queries from small businesses that have been doing this themselves, who suddenly realize that actually we don't know what this MTD is all about. We've never done anything. We can't upload our VAT returns. Can you help us? So watch out for that. It's in, there's some information on it in the latest Agent Update 99, which came, I think it's 99, might be 90, no, Agent 99, which came out last week. So if you want to have a look at that, just go and search on gov.uk website and you'll find it. So from now on, MTD for VAT as a heading disappears, because now MTD is normal for VAT. So we are reverting back to VAT, not MTD for VAT. And again, from pretty soon on, you're not going to see that term anymore. It just goes back to bog standard VAT, and MTD will now refer to income tax for self-assessment. So that's the one that we're now homing in on. Now, the idea when we started was very briefly that you do your accounts now as ICB bookkeepers. You do that anyway. There is nothing new in this. You do your reconciliations, you do your monthly accounts maybe for clients, you do your quarterly VAT updates and everything else. But now we are now uploading those figures on a quarterly basis. And the biggest issue we've got is that you have to do it through an MTD login. Now, if your clients are running their own quarterly returns, that's not a problem. They can do that. And then there is a tax agent to do the year end. However, if as bookkeepers, we are doing this on the quarterly returns, what we always thought until about 18 months ago, 2 years ago, was that you could just upload your quarterly figures and then either yourself or your business, someone in your business, or a tax or an accountant at the year end would then do the annual year end. Now, we've got a problem because in order to do the quarterly uploads or updates, as they're now calling them, you have to have, if you're not doing it as a client, you have to have an agent code that allows you to do that. And the biggest issue is that for a single head of service at HMRC, so MTD for ITSA is a single head of service, you cannot have more than one tax agent. So we have this single agent status. Now we're working very hard, and Ross is going to come and tell us later exactly what ICB are doing to try to solve this. HMRC are trying to bring in multiple agency, but they have stated, even as shorter time ago as about 3 weeks, they were saying it's not going to happen before 2025, which means we have at least 1 year of issues. Now, the lovely reason that Lara and Sylvia have come to join us is that Sylvia, as I said, is a tax agent. So she will be able, working with her team, to do all those uploads. What Sylvia has to do is to sort out who's going to do what and who has access to what, which is one issue that hopefully won't be too big an issue. And we have Lara, who would love to do the quarterly uploads, but actually, if there is a year end, because she's at the moment not doing year end, she has a problem with who's going to do it. So if I can start with Sylvia. Sylvia, welcome. I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but yours is probably, could be the easier one. What have you done so far generally with your clients for MTD to sort of get the practice and your clients prepared? Just briefly, where are you going with this? Oh, I think you're on mute, Sylvia. Standard Zoom issue.
You'd think after 2.5 years we'd know what we're doing.
No, I still do. I still do.
Yeah, so we're gradually going through our sole trader clients at the moment as they're, as we're starting to do their tax returns for 21, 22. I'm bringing them in and chatting to them about what's coming, and they're all going, yeah, that's fine, you do it, that's fine, you do it. The ones we're also starting to realign the ones that do not have March year ends, and so that's more tricky. So we're just working through with them and trying to help them understand what's coming. And some of them go, oh yeah, no, that's a good idea, no, that makes sense, I can do that. And then some of them are just looking blankly at me as if saying, what are you talking about?
Because what HMRC are also doing is that when you report your tax quarterly and year-end tax, it's now being reported in line with the tax year, not your accounting year. So if you have an accounting year that starts, say, on the 1st of September, you're offsetting your tax, and you've got this rollover relief, and that has to be now brought in by the end of March 2024. And we've done a lot of work on that. There are articles on the website. I've done a couple of webinars on it if anybody's still needs to go back and look at that. So basically So I'm starting to talk.
I'm just starting to talk to clients as we're doing this year's tax. We're starting to talk to them about what they're going to need to think about, and the fact that things are going to be due. Most of them don't seem to. They just kind of leave it up to us to sort out. And we're actually running a local drop-in seminar beginning of October for our clients, if they're still not quite sure what's going on, but we're putting it on for with advertising it locally so that people can just come and we can start talking about it to local businesses. And I'm also starting to think about putting together a similar thing, one for even if they tend out to be on Zoom, but I'm going to local. This is more in terms of promotion, going to local estate agents who I know have letting agents and saying, can I put on a seminar for your clients?
That's a big one. That's a big one, letting agents.
Property ones, yeah. So that we can, and where we've got clients who are who have big property portfolios and sort of or clients who are letting agents. But we're starting to think in terms of that and starting to talk to them also. I mean, I'm trying to hit the sole traders first before the property guys, but yeah, so we're starting. We've started the process.
Okay, well, I'm going to come back on property because there are some issues that perhaps we can discuss later on property. Lara, hi. You're in a very different situation because you're not a tax agent. How do you view this whole thing? Is it absolutely terrifying you, or what is it doing for you?
Well, my whole business is run around the fact that I don't do tax. I do everything up to that.
What a wise lady.
So I do VAT, but I don't do tax and I don't do payroll. So at the moment, I do have clients that bring all their books to me. I collate it, I put it in software, do whatever I need, and then it goes off to their accountant for the year end. So I do have some sole trader clients, and it's quite interesting because I'm the one talking to them about MTD. It doesn't appear to be coming from their accountants. It is me that's bringing up and saying, right, okay, you're not on software, but we're going to need to move you onto software. Have you spoken about it? But then, as you say, Jackie, there's this whole thing about how do I work around the quarterly updates and the EOPS or whatever it's going to be at year end, and how does that work for me? Because I could do the self-assessment exam, I could do level 3, I could do, I know we spoke about Inspire, about a separate exam just for those quarterly updates. But then how does that, if we've got this single agent status, how does that then work with whoever's doing the year end? Now, we're lucky with the ICB. I know loads of people that will happily do the year end. Yeah. But and I know, like Sylvia, and I know there are people out there that run their whole business just doing the tax side of things. But it's still going to require some logistics, some working out how this works, working with someone that's happy with the way I work and they're happy with the way they work, because obviously I know you and I discussed this at Inspire, there's obviously always going to be a risk of someone taking what I say and actually, yes, we're all qualified and yes, we're all doing the thing, but is someone going to be prepared to take my word on everything for them to then do the filing?
This is the issue that we've been talking about, because as ICB bookkeepers, we know for AML purposes that you cannot take anything on face value. You have to look at it. And the same thing there is going to happen, that if you go to if you have an accountant or another tax agent who's going to do the quarterly uploads for you, they are actually doing the uploads and they are responsible for making sure that that's right, although the responsibility ultimately lays with the client. But they are going to have to check your work, because they could not, unless they sample and know that you work, they are in danger of not running their practice in a proper manner if they don't confirm what you're doing, and hence there's going to be an add-on cost. And I don't think HMRC seem to have suddenly realized that there is going to be an additional cost if we're going down this route, however reasonable that cost will be, simply because of the timing. Because if I'm right in thinking, then if you're doing what we call the paper bag brigade, Lara, at the end of the year, and you get everything there, you can summarize everything and put it together and just upload sort of summary figures. Well, you can't do that now, because one of the things that HMRC have confirmed is that every transaction has to be entered independently. So, for example, all those fuel receipts, which you might add up on a monthly basis and put it in as a single amount, can't do that anymore. We can still use spreadsheets, but then there has to be the bridging software to go up. So I think the complexity of what we do, or what we could be doing, is growing.
I think that's...
Sorry, Lara, finish first.
I think that's the thing as well, isn't it? And that's one of the things that I think clients need to be aware of as well. I've been speaking to a lot of clients, or when I'm mentioning MTD, and again, it's that whole, if you don't have a separate bank account, you really are going to need
absolutely,
because this whole thing of actually the people that the whole paper bag brigade, and we'd look and we'd check their bank statements as a detail, but we wouldn't upload all of that information. Now, if we're going to have to do that, then the easiest way that's going to be, or some of the way, is going to be bank feeds, is going to be doing it with software. and it's going to need to be a lot more segregated.
You're going to have to extract all the personal stuff from it and stick it into drawings or whatever.
Yeah.
I've got 2 questions coming. Terry, I'm going to pick up your question a little bit later because I want to come back to that one. But Lee's which actually follows up from something that Lara said. Lee's come up with a question that says, I met with an accountant recently to pick brains over the MTD strategy, and he was in denial and believes it won't happen. I even had a bet with him on it. Now, that's an interesting one, because we have always said in the bookkeeping profession, a lot of others, this is going to happen in April 24, and I'm absolutely convinced it will happen. The problem is there are still so many unknowns that what the accountancy profession, and I don't think I'm breaking any confidence because I know this has been out in the public domain, although we've discussed it at length in HMRC workshops, is that they need to now look at what they're actually going to go live with in April 2024, because with the current plans and the way the pilot scheme is moving very slowly and with very small numbers, everybody, and I have to say for the first time, ICB is now taking the view that something has got to give because they are not going to be ready. And it's 4.5 million businesses, I think, are going to be, or individuals going to be involved in this. And it's not like that where it's staggered across each month. These are all going to have to do their first upload on the 5th of July, 2024. Can you imagine 4.5 million uploads hitting HMRC with the space of 24 hours on the first time it happens? And we've said this to HMRC, and I have always been staunchly behind what HMRC have wanted, but even now, myself and ICB are querying the fact that is this feasible? So the current consensus is that it will happen because it can't not happen. There's too much being invested in it, and the government want this out. Of course, what's added to the issues is that, you know, we've got new ministers, we've got new prime minister coming in, we've got change of ministers on the government, we don't know who's going to be doing what. And to be honest, it's a bit like the last 6 weeks has been a bit like going into Purdah before a general election. I think Ros will confirm this. Nobody is taking any decisions. We send stuff up and it sort of gets so far but doesn't go any further, does it, Ros? And we are looking at frantically getting stuff ready for September, Ross, is it, to try to feed this back? Yeah,
September 5th, and then we don't know when the reshuffle will come, but probably pretty quickly after that.
So we are geared up to start lobbying whoever we need to lobby, and Ross is going to explain, as I said, exactly what we're going to do. So I think it will happen. We have some issues. Sylvia, I want to come back to property because you raised the property. The issue with property, apart from the fact that individuals don't always realise that just owning a property that's rented out is going to fall under MTD, because the threshold is still £10,000 turnover, which is quite low unless you're in rent a room. And even if you're in rent a room and your income goes over £10,000, even if you're below the rent a room threshold, would you believe, as far as we're aware, you still have to do MTD quarterly because your income is over, and then you discount it at the end by taking off the allowance. So, and also the other one that I've come up against is going to have to come involved, or I don't know how many people, are foster parents. Now, foster parents is an interesting one. I only know because I'm involved with a company that manages foster parents. And a foster parent can earn so much before they have to declare it on a self-assessment. And that is above the level, it's considerably above the level of MTD registration. But if the amount that they are receiving, because they've maybe got 3 or 4 foster children that they're taking in, takes them over £10,000 above their threshold, which might be £15,000. If they're earning 25, they've got to do MTD as well, and then take off their allowance at the end of the year. So it's getting broader. Now, the other problem we've got with property is that HMRC have not yet announced what they're going to do for multiple property owners. We don't know. What they're saying at the moment is that if you have a husband or wife, or 2 individuals, they don't even need to be married, who jointly own a property, everything has to be split quarterly. How we're going to do that, we don't know. How you're going to record it, we don't know. And there is a push at the moment to try to put multiple property owners off for a year, but we'll watch this space and see what happens.
I can see that being a real issue if you're doing the tax return for one and not for the other.
Yes, exactly, because you've got to split it. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and the more now that we start to delve down into the detail of this, the tougher it's getting and the more complex it's getting and the more issues that are being thrown up. And I do get even more concerned when I hear the software companies are struggling with what they've got to do with the changes for the APIs that they're doing, the program interfaces and things. And some of those are struggling. And actually, I was in contact with someone this morning because, as I understand it from one of our members this morning, that the various software companies are actually dealing with these quarterly updates on a different method. Now, when we started, the idea, as I thought was brilliant, was that you do quarter one and you upload it. Then, of course, we all know that clients come up with late transactions. You know, I've used it in my talks, the builder that finds the fuel receipts in the back of the van. And as someone from IAGSA once said to me, well, thank heavens, you know, you're not a farmer, dairy farmer, and they've been found in the cowshed or something, because that's really nasty getting those late. But those are the sort of things which you would put into, and if it's a VAT return, to a certain extent, you can upload it on the next VAT return. And the idea was that when you do your 6-month upload, it would subsume all those changes and overwrite the first quarter with 6 months, and everything will be hunky-dory. When the notices came out a couple of weeks ago, the announcement was that if you have amendments to quarter one, you have to make those amendments first and resubmit your quarter one while you're then doing quarter two. And I watched a webinar from one of the companies that showed exactly how this is going to work. So you have your 4 quarters and it says submitted quarter one, quarter two is due, quarter three and quarter four not yet due. So if you are making changes to quarter one, you go in and make the changes, and all of a sudden the submitted button comes to resubmit button, and you click on that and it uploads. So that particular company, I think, has probably, it looks to me without using it, that it's made it fairly straightforward in the fact of what you upload. So that's fine. And that is the resubmit service. And then when you come to the 4 quarters, you've done your 4 quarters, you're happy you've made your amendments, then we move into the EOPS, and the end of period statements with all the year-end adjustments is a whole different ballgame that we don't want to get into today. We'll do that, we'll save that for another day. So I think, Terry, that should answer that question, if not come back to me. Naomi is saying, I'm letting 25% of my clients go because I don't think I'll cope otherwise. These are the resistant, more chaotic clients. God help them. Well, Naomi, I have to say, my dear, if you can't cope with them, I don't think anybody is going to be able to cope with them. Because if our members are finding this too difficult, and we know that there are people out there who are never going to be able to do this on their own, and you know, it could end up that, as we said this before. Graham has said on here, if you look at the HMRC page extension of Making Tax Digital to businesses and landlords, 3/4 of the way down the page is the section heading costs, where it states that the average transitional cost is £330, fair enough, with an annual cost of £35. For doing 4 returns and the end of year adjustment, I quite agree. I think they vastly underestimated the costs for transitioning across in the first year. I think once the first year's gone, it might be easier. What about new clients? How, both of you, how would you be geared up for new clients coming aboard? You are going to get contacted in your area by small businesses. Oh, I think, oh no, we've lost, yeah, it's all right. I think you are going to get contacted by clients. Lara, how are you going to deal with that?
Well, that's the next thing, isn't it? Is do I actually say to them, no, I'm not prepared to take you on, but here's someone that is, and I know will do that work, and because they are a tax agent. Because at this stage, there's obviously a concern that I could end up taking the client on, building that relationship, and then not actually being able to assist them in the way that I've said I have, and therefore letting that client down in whatever way, or getting to 2024 and going, well, I told you I could do it, but I can't actually do it.
Which is going to be even worse.
Yeah. So at this stage, it is more of a case of reviewing where it is and trying to work out some strategic alliances, and or just saying to them, right, okay, I've got people like Sylvia that I can give you their details and they're more than happy to help you. And on this occasion, I can't help. So that's it. It's going to be, I'm going to have to quite soon start to make that decision on whether I'm actually going to be prepared to take on new clients of that type. And actually, while they're not, it's not like I do work with sole traders, but they're not a core of my business. But it is always that thing of saying no to people as well, isn't it? And having that feeling like you're turning down work, which you could very easily do, but you're being restricted potentially by HMRC.
Yeah. So do you see that you have your sufficient strategic partnerships in place to be able to sort this out for your current client base?
I would hope so. I mean, obviously using the ICB, and I've also got a couple of accountants with bigger firms that I work with, I would hope that between us there are enough resources. But equally, I know we've spoken about before, if this all goes ahead and we've got all this, everyone's going to have an extra 10 clients or whatever it was, wasn't it, that we said we're going to need. So actually there does come a point, and if people are saying they're going to have to let go 25% of their base to actually deal with the extra workload, then where are those 25% going? So we're either going to need a great new influx of great new bookkeepers, or we're going to
we're working on it
somehow.
Sylvia, can I come back on that then from your side, because your type of business is the one that people like Lara will come to build those strategic partnerships without going into figures, costs, and specifically your business. How can you deal with setting up a strategy to cope with something like that if you get an influx of ICB members who say, can you help us out in this? I mean, have you got a plan in place and have thought about that possibility? That's probably putting you on the spot there. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that is putting me a bit on the spot. I mean, we have been thinking about what our general, because on a general basis, those clients are smaller than what we generally would deal with now. And so I'm thinking in terms of capacity and in terms of, and am I just going to have one person who just does those little clients, and I have a department of one person who is just doing those returns or those clients. As much as possible, we're going to be trying to train clients to do it themselves, and then we'll just go in and review and press the button, because
that's an interesting one, because some of the feedback is that the clients are never going to be able to do it, or a lot of the clients are not going to be able to do it themselves.
Some of them won't be, but quite frankly, if we can get them set up, with the bank feeds going into some proper software. Now, the software is a choice, is another thing. I mean, that maybe we can come back to. But in terms of, so go back to your original question, I hadn't actually thought about it in those terms. I mean, we've always said that yes, we can do the client work, the tax work for clients, for bookkeepers who are not tax agents, but I haven't really thought about it in terms of what we'd sort something out.
I mean, there are quite a lot of practices like yours, in the back
of my mind, just as we've been talking, I've been thinking, well, within my own practice, I have 4 or 5 people who have access to my agent account as users, and I give them individual access to the specific clients. As it turns out, the ones that don't need to be restricted. But and I'm just wondering whether that's not something that we could do as an agent, is add, say, Lara as a bookkeeper to my account as a user to do the quarterly stuff, and then we'll deal with the year ends.
That would be a brilliant suggestion, but actually I have to say HMRC have scuppered that one, because that's the delegate access side, and we just had confirmation back about a month ago that was the idea that people have put around. And actually, it was Rebecca Bennyworth who actually raised that at an HMRC meeting. And HMRC legal team have come back and said, no, that's what's called the team access and delegate access is purely for employees of your business. So you can do it for anyone who you employ, but you can't do it as it stands at the moment for a subcontract or someone who subcontracts you to do it.
I'm sure I could. I'm sure you can have as many employees as you like, can't you? And
well,
you could, I could
absolutely
I could put Lara just for that, you know, and all she does is.
I mean, that might be a work. That might be a workaround, but also
it's not going to work for everybody. But I
it's
mean,
not going to work for everybody, and it might actually cause you more problems than it solves. There is a question in from Lisa. What about the directors of limited companies who have wages, dividends, etc., and normally would do a self-assessment? Do they come into MTD ITSA? The answer to that is no, they don't. It is purely for the self-employed and the property owner in the first instance. Now, what we're going to have for a number of years is going to have this dual system working, because if you are a sole trader or a property owner that falls within MTD, then those sections of your business you will report for self-assessment purposes through the MTD system, and that all goes up. And it's a bit like it's very similar to going into your current tax return if you're doing it online and not using one of the tax calculation software. And you'll do that through that, and then anything else like income from dividends or anything else, or foreign income, or some of the other incomes that are there that we deal with, is dealt with through the old current self-assessment route. So if you have a director, that doesn't fall in. You just go in and do the self-assessment return as you're doing now. There is no issue with that. And we've got this dual system that goes along. And as I say, in 2025, partnerships, simple partnerships, not LLPs, simple partnerships are supposed to be coming on board. But we've got the same issue there as we have with multiple owners of property and how that's going to work. So the answer to that, Lisa, is no, that won't affect you. You'll just carry on as you do normally. Jackie says, I'm a new practice, just finished all level 4 papers, waiting for the agent codes, 7 weeks. Any steer on how this can speed up for your first clients? I'm very keen to offer an MTD ITSA service. Well done in your exams at level 4, by the way. That's fabulous. HMRC is moving extremely slowly, and at the moment there do seem to be some issues with the agent services account and trying to register your clients for VAT. Someone has come up today, I think on Accounting Web, with a workaround. So if you have a look at the recent Accounting Web stuff, someone's come up with a workaround for that. I haven't got the link myself, but it is there, as to how that can actually be worked around. But speeding stuff up, I'm not sure. It seems to be taking a very long time. 7 weeks seems a long time, but I'm not sure it is at the moment. Lisa says, I've been doing a series of resources for my clients to help those who can and want to do some of the software inputting themselves, which is exactly what Sylvia said, and have directed new inquiries who can't find anyone with capacity to those. Free agent have a good landlord product too. You do need to have a look at the software because they're all offering slightly different things. The thing that worries us generally at ICB is actually the software companies, 1 or 2 of them are putting out adverts that say it's so easy to do it. You do it all yourself and it all happens automatically. And we know as bookkeepers that it's not that simple, because the old adage that I use is you go into the petrol station, you buy your fuel, and you happen to buy a newspaper and a Mars bar, which is not tax deductible. And how do you split that down? I mean, this is a very simple minor detail, but actually it's probably the one that takes quite a long time to sort out when you're trying to get, if you get the receipt with it all split down. Okay, so anything else, Laura or Sylvia, you want to add that you think is relevant to what we've spoken about?
I think the software thing is going to be a big issue, because most of them, they're not there yet. And for people that we're trying to say, you know, we want to be able to offer them to join the pilot, there's not software out there to do it yet. So, and then the other thing I'm interested to actually figure out how it's going to work eventually properly is going to be the link between your bookkeeping software and the tax prep software.
Yeah.
So we use TaxCalc for year ends and for the accounts for our sole traders and for their tax returns. And quite how those links are going to work as the full digital link is something that's really, it's exercising me. I'd like to, I'm getting twitchy about it.
I haven't spoken to the tax company, the TaxCalc type people yet. But what will happen is that at some stage at the end of the year, your books, your trial balance has to transfer into a year-end TaxCalc software digitally. So you can't key it in again, you have to transfer it. So whether you use the package that goes with your software, as they're all seem to be developing, or whether you use one of the specific tax packages, you will have to export and import into that to do your year end. Now, we've also had chats about the year-end adjustments and those that are for tax purposes and accounting purposes on what comes back, because don't forget, once your software goes off to the tax calculation section of what you're doing, if there are any adjustments, and we've all had them come back from accountants where they want to adjust your financial accounts, that has then got to come back, because I'm not sure you're going to be able to put a journal in to correct it. You might have to import it back, and what happens to all your tax. These are the sort of things that I think have still got to be ironed out. There will have to be a transfer out. It's what happens when you come back after that to ensure that you have a clean set of accounts for the start of the next year to carry on inputting. Terry has said, it's very concerning that so many issues are still outstanding with HMRC moving at a very slow pace. Oh, I so agree, Terry. We've been in correspondence this morning about this. Those coupled with ICB exam requirements gives people a shorter window to qualify. Have you any idea how many weeks or months away we are from moving forward on qualifications? Well, I did speak to members at the Inspire Tour about a possible qualification, and that has now been drafted. It's gone to the Advisory Council. Sylvia and Terry have both given me some really, really good feedback on it, which I've worked on and I've incorporated. That has now gone to the board, and we will go out to 2 tax specialists and 2 MTD specialists that we at ICB know and help us out and are very supportive of us, very highly regarded specialists. That we're going to ask them to have a quick look at it, see if there's anything I've missed, and we are hoping to launch that at the summit. But the problem is producing learning materials and writing some form of exams for that. We don't want to start doing it too early, because in case it changes at the end, we need to make sure we have a project. Now, what I'm working on, and this may still change, this is not signed in concrete, is a 2-stage process. So the qualification itself will have a part 1, which is leading up to the understanding of MTD and the quarterly returns and how it's going to work. Now, the suggestion is that at some stage, everyone should take that part 1, at least for CPD, even if you are tax agents already in year end, because this tests your knowledge, and then you can say, I am fully MTD conversant. The second part of that is to do with the year end. Now, what actually, I have to thank Terry for this, and some of the others on the Advisory Council pointed out, is that the way I'd written this as an MTD qualification actually completely cuts out from this SAT all of those who are not MTD and earn less than 10,000 but need to do a self-assessment return. So the second part deals with everybody in sole trader and property ownership and their year end, regardless of whether they are within MTD or outside MTD. So we think we've now got drafted, thanks to the Advisory Council, a qualification which will be fit for purpose. And hopefully we will come out to you with that. Now, I'm conscious of the time, we've got 20 minutes. What are we doing about, what are ICB doing about it? Well, we are lobbying like mad, and to do that, we need some information from you. So I'm now going to hand over to Ross, who has done some sterling work on this in the last few weeks. And Ross, you're going to tell us what you've been doing.
Thanks for that, Jackie. Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Great. Sorry, I think my internet fell over a little bit there for a second. So yeah, hi, I'm Rosalie Monroe. I'm the new head of communications at ICB. and obviously looking into this single agent tax issue heavily. We know that that's going to have quite a big impact on our community, but we're not really sure what that impact will look like, and we need that data to inform the campaign that we're looking at doing, which I'll talk about in a moment. So tomorrow morning, with the recording of this webinar, what we'll do is send over a survey, and the survey is mandatory. It contains 6 questions about your practice, which will include things like how many clients you have, how many clients you do self-assessment for, how many landlords, and that sort of information, so we can understand what the impact of single agent sign-in will look like if it comes into effect in April 2024. And that's really all about kind of getting your voice heard at the very highest levels. I will also be looking into how we take this further. So we are planning a kind of 2-stage campaign approach, with the first stage of the campaign being that kind of soft engagement, and we'll harvest the data from that survey that we've put out to demonstrate the level of impact that we'll have on us and also small business. And we're looking at kind of targeting the very highest levels of policy making, so executives at HMRC, relevant ministers, and other ministerial departments that will have an impact on. So, for example, obviously, the Department of Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy have quite a lot to do with small business. This is going to have a big knock on for them as well. So writing to them as well. And we think your insight is really important in that, because you've got those close working relationships with those small businesses. And if they make a mistake now, that could be catastrophic for small businesses and the bookkeeping profession in the future. The second stage of that campaign will look slightly more robust. We're in conversations with other trade organisations at the moment. So we're speaking to organisations like ICAW and other small business bodies like the FSB and the British Chambers of Commerce, who we think will need to kind of keep abreast of this in the future. They've all asked for the data of the survey that we're taking so that they can understand how it's going to impact on their members as well. And we'll look at doing some more kind of outward kind of action on that, so more externally apparent through kind of putting things in the press, starting a more kind of open and traditional what we would call a lobbying campaign. But we're hoping it won't get to that. We're hoping that kind of first level soft engagement with those senior stakeholders will mean that we can get our message through, and that changes will be made. So essentially what we're asking for, what we're proposing at the moment, and obviously the data that we have, that we collect from this survey will inform how we go ahead. But what we're looking for at the moment are kind of three key points. So the first is that we're quite keen for dual agent access to be set up. So someone can do the quarterly uploads, and then you'll have an accountant or a bookkeeper that's SAT qualified doing the EOPS. The alternative to that is having a completely separate system for the quarterlies, and having another system for the EOPS. So you have effectively single agent access on both, but there's no kind of crossover between the two. So one agent can work on one and the other agent can work on the other. Obviously, out of those two, the first is simpler and much more palatable, but those are the proposals that we're making. And we've also asked, because of what we're hearing from the software companies, is that they may not be able to produce software that's capable of doing these sorts of things within the time frame up to kind of April 2024. What we're asking for is an extension until that work can be carried out, so that the first quarterly return isn't due until after that improvement is made. So that's kind of where our head is at the moment. Like I said, please do fill the survey in when we send it round. All of this stuff is really important. We're very cognizant of the fact that this has a huge impact on you guys, but we just want to understand what that looks like to be able to effectively represent you. So that's kind of where we are with that. If you've got any questions, you can always drop me a line. My email is Rosalia, rosalia.munro, MUNRO, @bookkeepers.org.uk. So if you've got any questions about the policy side of things, just drop me a line, and we can go over it. But that's kind of me.
Excellent, thank you very much indeed. Yes, Russ is doing an awful lot of work behind the scenes, has a little black book that I would die for, and is using it, I can assure you. So that's great. It's calling in quite a lot of favours, I think, for us at the moment. So basically, to sum up, ICB is pushing for the single agent, for the multiple agent access, because that is going to make life a whole lot easier. Whether it will happen, it will happen, but whether it will happen by 2024, we don't know. That's what the issue is. Basically, when I'm speaking to the accountancy bodies, so we're talking about ACCA, ICAW, and all of the bigger firms, you know, that will do the year end, they have two options. Either they don't want to do the quarterly returns because it's going to be too expensive, and they want bookkeepers to do it because there is a massive market out there. Or what a number of them seem to be doing is actually setting up their own bookkeeping sections, which is a worry for ICB, because if they start to do that, that starts to cut us out. But we're hoping that that's not going to happen, because they just don't want to really the hassle, do they, Ross?
No, and from the conversations that Jacquie and I have already had, ICAW are really quite supportive of everything that we're doing. They are really concerned about the level of demand that 4.2 million people coming into a requirement to report will cause their members. They just don't have the capacity to do that work. So we're quite confident that we'll have a lot of support there.
Yeah, and as Ross said, we've had meetings with them and various other bodies. The Chamber of Commerce is also very keen on working with us. We've had a meeting with them. So there's a lot going on behind the scenes. So I just wanted to reassure everyone today that we are working hard on your behalf. But once you start to hit the big behemoth, which is HMRC, it can be very difficult to permeate into it. So we're trying very hard. I am conscious I haven't got any more questions coming up. Nobody else has put anything up. As Ross said, yeah, please, I was just to say, Lara, come back with anything.
One of the things the other thing that we've got to aware, and I know was mentioned earlier, is obviously the cost that this is going to have on our clients. Either way that it's done, people that are currently doing self-assessments and expect a cheap self-assessment at the end of the year, that is not going to be possible, because we're going to have this quarterly return. And it's quite interesting that the whole Help to Grow scheme that is out with HMRC at the moment would not be applicable to any of these people that are actually going to need the software, because you have to have a minimum of 5 employees. So the small sole traders that aren't on software, that at the moment just have a year-end cost of whatever it might be for their self-assessment, are then going to have to look at, are probably going to have, if not double, possibly even more than that, by the time that you add on the software or the requirements or whatever else, plus our additional time to do these quarterly returns.
I think that's a great point, Lara. I had a chat with the head of policy at the FSB the other day, and they were saying that they're very, very concerned about the amount of cost that this will put onto business in terms of compliance. They were initially concerned about the cost of software, and were completely bowled over when I said like how much it could potentially cost a small business if an accountant or someone that was like that was handling their tax return, how much that would cost a small business as compared to having the bookkeeper that they already have doing the work. It's crazy. I
think the cost is more for probably non-VAT registered businesses than VAT registered, because if you're a VAT registered business, you're doing quarterly or annual returns, you're doing it on a regular basis. Even if you're just doing an annual return, you've got to work out what the VAT is going to be roughly to pay that each month anyway. So those you're doing the work for, it is all of these clients who are new into this that aren't VAT registered, and there are an awful lot with turnover below £85,000. We're still pushing. to have that threshold either raised or to come in on a sliding scale, which would help the issue.
And that is such a significant cost to a small business, right? Particularly when input prices are going through the ceiling because of inflationary pressure. It's just crazy.
Yeah, it's great. Sylvia, anything else you'd like to add? Oh, can't hear you, Sylvia. Don't know why you're not showing mute, but I'll let Sylvia sort her sound out. I know she was having some problems earlier. No, can't hear you, Sylvia. Your mic's not working. No, okay. Nod or shake your head. Yeah, no, both. So basically where we are then, you will all be contacted about the survey tomorrow. That's coming out. Please, please, please fill it out. We have made this mandatory because it is so important that we gather this information. And believe it or not, it's not information that we can easily extract out of our AML system. So we do need you to come back, because it may be that you're qualified to do SAT, but you choose not to. I know there are a number of people who have done the SAT exams because they want the knowledge, but they don't, or having done the exam and decided, actually, there's no way I'm doing this, which is where I ended up in my business, sort of making it simpler and simpler when I was in practice. And so we do need it. So please get that back to us as soon as you can. Then we've at least got some knowledge that we can base it. Because if we say that 80% or more, and we think it may even be more than that, of our members do not do SAT returns or do not act as tax agents for tax, we've got an even bigger issue, or HMRC have got an even bigger issue than they thought it was going to be. And if you then take on all of the small businesses who do most of their VAT returns themselves, but then hand everything over to an accountant, those are coming on board as well, and it's going to be even more. Couple of comments come up. Thank you for your feedback. Philip has said one of my accountants is merging with another larger accountancy firm to deal with this. That's, that's obviously one way around it. Karen says, help to grow, that Lara mentioned, also only offers a very limited choice of software. Yeah. So not much use to a lot of sole traders, because that tends to be for the bigger businesses, doesn't it? That help to grow. Marie says, I thought I understood MTD, but my head is spinning after this. Absolutely. And Tina says the same. And Philippa says the ultimate, I think I need to look into early retirement. Yeah, yes. So those of us of a certain age are also thinking along those lines as well. Except in my case, it's not early retirement. But anyway, I'm very conscious of everyone's time, so I don't want to sort of drag this out for the sake of it, unless anyone has got anything else they want to say. I think we've dealt with all the questions.
Just to say, oh, sorry.
No. How can I easily rewatch older ICB TV shows? I can't find them on the website. Now, I think they're on YouTube. I think you need to go in and sign into the YouTube channel, ICB YouTube channel, and you'll find them all on there. Sorry, Ross.
Sorry, just to say that obviously we're a little bit time sensitive at the moment, because we, as Jackie said, we're waiting to see who the next Prime Minister will be to put some stuff, our stuff on this out. The survey that we do send out will have a 2-week time limit on it. So any kind of responses that we receive after that, we can't factor in. So really kind of get in there as soon as you can, really. But yeah, really looking forward to seeing all the replies that we get.
I have to say, I ran through the 6 questions online yesterday, and they are very straightforward. All you need is just your numbers and things, and you know what you do for people. So the actual survey will probably take you about 5 minutes to do. It's just the looking at your numbers and things that we need to spend a bit of time on. Terry says, just one word, help. And Karen says, think the Sylvia and Lara type working relationship may be a big uptake possibility. Absolutely. There we are, setting out complete new strategies for everyone. So my thanks to everybody. Lara and Sylvia, thank you so much for your time. I'm so grateful to have your input. Lara, particularly you as well, because you are probably going to be the archetypal ICB member who is actually going to have some issues with this. And Sylvia, thank you, because I think you're going to be inundated with contacts.
Well, probably. That would be nice. That's fine.
I may not have done you any favours bringing you in today. Ross, thank you for your content. I say to everyone, you will be seeing a lot more of Ross on ICB TV. I'm absolutely certain she's going to become a new ICB TV star. Thank you for all your comments. Anyone who's watching this on catch up, if you do have any questions, then please, oh yeah, there is one comment, Keith Hall. If the government reduced CT enough, corporation tax, perhaps the answer will be to incorporate everyone into limited companies. No, 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 no. Because at some stage, limited companies are going to be dragged into this. They will do. It's just a question of when. So going into a limited company, you should only become a limited company if it's right for your business to do so, because there are a whole host of other returns and things you need to make to be a limited company. So think very seriously about that. So again, Ross, thank you. Thank you, Sylvia. Thank you, Lara. I'm very grateful. Lots of messages coming up. If you've got any queries, you can contact us. You've got Ross's email. You have my email address, some of you. If not, into the member services email, and we will come back to you as soon as possible. So thank you, everyone, for your time. Lovely to be with you today. Again, thanks to Lara and Sylvia. And we will, in the words of Arnie, we will be back. We will return. Thanks very much, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.